President Trump responded yes to an invitation by North Korea to have a meeting. What happened is North Korea relayed this information to South Korea, and the South Korean leader, brought it up, and Donald Trump snap responded yes. So the White House has already put a semi-backpedal on this and said that, did Trump say yes, he's definitely going to meet with Kim Jong Un? What had happened was, he meant that if they show concrete steps of denuclearization, that in that circumstance, we would have no problem meeting with Kim Jong Un. So it's like a little bit up in the air at the moment as to whether or not there actually will be a meeting. But originally, I think they floated the exact day, or maybe it was the month that they're going to do it. It's supposed to be I think 3 months in the future or so. But this is big. Now, I was joking around when I first heard this on Twitter, and I said, yeah, this will go well, because you have two giant narcissistic buffoons who lead countries in a room together. But I was, while that is true, that it's like, whoa, anything can happen in this meeting, at the same time, I think this is actually not a bad idea, because what's the alternative? The alternative, especially with neocon warhawks littered in Trump's administration, the alternative is people keep whispering in his ear that he needs to start bombing them and do a preemptive offensive military strike. So while I was poking fun at this originally when the news came out, it's actually not a terrible idea. And what's funny is you see the Republicans and the Democrats instantly became hypocrites, save a few voices who have been consistent. But most of the Democrats in D.C. and the Republicans in D.C. instantly became hypocrites, because all of a sudden Democrats were acting like, you're going to legitimize this regime in North Korea. But that's the exact argument that Republicans used against Obama when Obama said he was going to meet with all these world leaders of Venezuela and Cuba and North Korea and Iran. Obama famously said, I'm going to meet with them without preconditions. Meaning, yeah, we're going to sit down and we're going to have a discussion and we're going to try to, work out some sort of a deal and be peaceful with each other. And Republicans shit on him for that. And they're like, oh, come on, man. You're legitimizing these terrible regimes. How could you do that? You have to have rules in place up front in order to meet with them and blah, 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 blah. And the Republicans are now the ones who are like, oh, diplomacy is wonderful. Of course. Let's sit down, have a conversation with Kim Jong Un. And the Democrats are the opposite. The Democrats are saying, I can't believe you're going to meet without preconditions. So, it's issues like this where you suddenly realize how insanely partisan the hacks in Washington, D.C. are and in corporate media are. And, I would say, while I don't think anything's going to come out of this meeting, and it is a little bit scary because you have these two bloated buffoons in the room together, it's better than the alternative. By the way, here's how the meeting is going to go down most likely. Kim Jong Un is trying to get this meeting not to let Trump know, I'm going to give up my nukes now. He's not doing that. He's setting up this meeting because he wants to show Trump, I am an equal. I'm a co-equal on the world stage, and you're going to treat me like an equal on the world stage. And, he might be nice in the process and roll out the red carpet a little bit in a meeting and be deferential to an extent, but he's basically trying to be treated as an equal. Now, Trump, he thinks this meeting is the exact opposite. He thinks this meeting is Kim Jong Un coming in and telling Trump, I'm going to start the steps in the process to denuclearization, and I want you to know that. So they're both coming into this meeting. There's no gray area, middle ground, point of agreement coming into this meeting. There are two totally different mindsets coming into this meeting and expectations coming into this meeting. So that's why the meeting's almost certainly not going to go well. If you're Kim Jong Un, what reason do you have for giving up your nuclear capabilities? You have no reason to do that. In fact, you have every reason in the world is on the opposite side of it, because Kim Jong Un saw what happened with Gaddafi, for example. Muammar Gaddafi gave up his weapons to the U.S. and said, hey, look, I saw what you guys did to Saddam. I'm not fucking around over here, so let me turn over my weapons, and basically the idea was, you have to promise not to attack me. If you promise not to attack me, and I give you these weapons, well, then everything's hunky-dory, and you get to leave me alone to be a dictator in my own little pocket over here. But he gave up his weapons, and then the U.S. toppled him anyway. So that sends a message. The message is you can't trust the United States. If the United States gets you to gets you to give up your weapons, well, then tick-tock until they come and topple you. So Kim Jong Un he's many things, but he's not incapable of putting two and two together. He can put two and two together. So he knows I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up my weapons. Why the fuck would I do that? You guys will topple me in 3.5 minutes. So he's going to tell Trump, like, no, I'm keeping my weapons, and that's the end of the conversation. In fact, he might even be bringing him in to let him know, I already have the capabilities that you feared I had. And again, Trump's expecting the opposite. Trump's expecting, hey, here are my concrete steps to denuclearization. So that's not good. The only way that this meeting can go smoothly is, honestly, it would be a funny scenario, almost like a movie. It would have to be Kim Jong Un decides going into it, I'm going to suck up to Donald Trump. If Kim Jong Un goes into this meeting saying, I'm going to suck up to Donald Trump, tell him he's awesome, tell him he's amazing, tell him I'm a fan of his, tell him whatever, compliment his crowd size. Like, oh, I saw your inauguration, biggest crowd size ever. I saw your crushing landslide popular vote. I saw your crushing landslide electoral college vote victory over Hillary Clinton. Man, that's great. I think you're an inspiration. If Kim Jong Un were to suck up to Donald Trump in that meeting, Donald Trump might actually walk out of the meeting going, "We're gonna work with the North Koreans. The North Koreans are tremendous people, unbelievable people. I have to just tell you, believe me." So that's the only possible good takeaway from this. And obviously North Korea will be doing the sucking up to him so that they get that reaction. If Kim Jong Un were to go down that path and take that strategy, Trump would immediately fall for that reaction. Now, of course, everybody in the U.S. would be like, oh my God, what the fuck are you talking about? This guy's terrible. I can't believe that happened. But actually, that wouldn't be the worst. That wouldn't be a bad scenario at all, because I think that's the best possible scenario. Because you're not going to get Kim Jong Un to give up his weapons. But at the same time, that's not a threat against us. That's another point that I always make, which virtually nobody else in the media makes, because it's, you're labeled a heretic if you say that. You're doing blasphemy if you say that, but it's the truth. North Korea is a gnat of a country. I mean, they can't keep the lights on at night. That's literal. They have problems with with their electric grid. When you look at, satellite view of South Korea and North Korea at night, North Korea is totally pitch black. South Korea is lit up. It's a dirt poor country. They know that they're nothing versus South Korea. Never mind versus the U.S. And, of course, the U.S. backs South Korea anyway. So it's the most powerful military that ever existed in human history versus one of the weakest in existence right now. So he gets it. He knows, hey, anytime there's a fucking conflict, we're immediately wiped off the map. So he's not going to do what? Kim Jong Un is going to strike Nebraska on Thursday? Get the fuck out of here, man. Get the fuck out of here. It's not happening. And the only way he'd strike against South Korea is if he felt like there was an imminent attack coming against him. So this is all, even though he's a monster against his own people of the highest order, on the international scene, he's actually doing a tit-for-tat approach and doing okay, I know my weaknesses here, and I know that you guys can crush me, so he's trying to be as rational internationally as possible. So either way, this is really interesting. I hope the meeting goes well for everybody's sake. This is better than the alternative of a strike, which, with so many neocons littered in Trump's administration, it's a really good thing that there's going to be this meeting, because if there wasn't, then it would be tick-tock until a strike. We've seen Trump's tweets himself. He goes on Twitter all the time, so only one thing will work. Only one thing will work with North Korea. Other administrations have tried everything else, but only one thing will work. That's him saying, I'm going to attack. So you could breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief here. But just keep in mind that they have very different aims going into this meeting. Kim Jong Un is not going to give up his weapons under any circumstances, And Donald Trump is 99% going to say that's the only thing, that's the only premise in which I'm even taking this meeting, is that I think you're going to say, I'll give up my nuclear weapons. So it's likely to not go well, but let's hope Kim Jong Un is smart enough to take the strategic approach of sucking up to Donald Trump, and then maybe we can de-escalate this situation and make it so that Washington basically just looks the other way and kicks the can down the road. A lot of presidents get shit for doing that. That's the best possible outcome. That's always the best possible outcome when it comes to North Korea. Kick the can down the road. Why? Because if you kick the can down the road, then there's no hot war. And there's no millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people dying. There's no conflict. So again, that's terrible for the North Koreans under Kim Jong Un's oppressive boot, but there's nothing we could do to save them. I mean, what the fuck are we going to do? We're going to topple North Korea, and then we'll attack North Korea. They immediately launch against South Korea if you offensively launch against them. It's not a question. That's what's going to happen. So you're going to get hundreds of thousands, if not millions of casualties right up front. So there's nothing you could do. There's just nothing you could do about it. And then even let's say they don't launch against South Korea, which they will immediately. If you launch against North Korea, you're going to kill a shitload of civilians. And that's not okay. That's not okay at all. And then if you topple them, this idea that like, oh, they'll all welcome America with open arms. No, they're not. They've been raised where they say America's the great Satan and South Korea is evil. And so you're going to topple their dear leader and then expect everything to go hunky-dory? It's the same fucking script over and over. We saw with Iraq. They're going to greet us as liberators. Did they greet us as liberators? Fuck no. We're still in Iraq today, $7 trillion later. So this isn't... The best case scenario is always, hey, just fucking ignore them. Just ignore North Korea. Let them do what they're going to do. You know, hopefully at some point there's a revolution and an uprising from within the country where they topple their government and they, you know, get a more reasonable form of government over there where it's not as oppressive. You could hope for the best for them, but we can't. It's not on us to go in there and try to change anything. So all the other presidents, while they get a bad rap, I say, hey, there wasn't a hot war under the other presidents, you know, at least in the modern era. So, okay, that's good. So I hope that the meeting goes in the way I described, where Kim Jong Un sucks up to Trump, and then we get to kick the can down the road until Trump is out of office. That would be the best case scenario. But more than likely, Trump's going to come in going, the only thing I'm going to accept is you denuclearizing. It's just a matter of how you denuclearize. And Kim Jong Un is going to say the opposite. He's going to say, under no circumstances am I giving it up. So Kim is trying to be treated as an equal. Donald Trump is trying to say, no, you're going to do what I want you to do and what the U.S. says you're going to do. So it's not, the framework of the meeting is not a good one, but it's better than the alternative, and it's the best we can hope for at this point in time.